happens once in a blue moon, makes the papers, but actually doesn't necessarily pay all the bills. And the amount the university might actually get out at the end of 10 years cycle might actually not be that much. At the other end, you've got, actually some of this works, where you've got man and a dog. Man and a dog comes along, says, look, I know a bit about this. The university goes, all right, you muck around with it, and late touch, slow risk, and see what happens, and sometimes that works. The challenge really is all this stuff in the middle, where it is high priority for the university to do it. There's a bit of grant funding around. Possibility, it looks like quite a big impact. Actually, you don't want man plus dog doing it. You know, these guys want to grab everything and either rip the heart out of it in terms of equity, or maybe not actually give it the right support that it actually needs to develop, because they're not really used to things being so raw, particularly these days, where they're not potentially prepared to do the commercialisation hard yards. They just want to write a check for a huge chunk of equity. So we see that challenge gap in the middle there. And then to sort of, again, project the way we see KT 2.0, if you like, is this sort of middle column. So you kind of read these things yourself, but the sort of unifocus VC, and I'm not going to mention any names, some of them do a great job. It's really just horses for courses, though. You're the self-preneur, so do they have a team? No, they don't. Do they have qualified management? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just the right guy at the right time. And no one's got the money to pay recruitment fees to do a search and selection for a proto CEO. And where is there a search? Where is there a recruitment consultant to hire an entrepreneur? You know, these things don't exist. So you really don't. You can't pay recruitment to recruit an entrepreneur. Corporate finance, does this guy raise money? Well, he might do. If he's a spin-out guy himself and he's done one, he's probably got a few bobs, so he actually might be okay. But you might need to raise money around him. Does he provide a service level agreement in terms of doing a market assessment, then doing a business plan and this and that? Well, no, it's kind of, you know, depends on if his dog needs walking, man plus dog, etc., etc. And on the other side, of course, you have blanket agreements. They do provide a lot, but it's kind of a full-fat version, and it doesn't necessarily provide everything you need in terms of sticking to time frames. There's a lot of arguments around valuations that happen, and yeah, so this middle ground is a sort of trying to bridge that gap between trying to satisfy things, and it requires a university to try and coordinate its KT 2.0 network, which is sort of being defined now as having people with money lurking around, people with the right skills lurking around, nurturing a network. So again, the venture approach, this is our definition of KT 2.0, would be get equity for stages. So both financiers and all the people, if they join us at club, and we do, some do, some don't, is it's like, right, you have X% for getting us this funding, Y% if you do this. You know, put your money where your mouth is. Don't come along and tell us you're big and bad and you're from the city and you're going to make us all millionaires, whatever. It's our IP. We're the university. We own this. You're going to work for your percentage, and you only get it when you've got the rest of the money in the bag and maybe some revenue or some other milestones or something like that. That puts the focus back at the VC's camp, which is okay. Right, we actually need to do something now and get the right management to get those things in place. And it's not pipeline agreements. People tend to think the expression fat, dumb and happy, if I can use that, is kind of for people with pipeline agreements. There's no incentive project by project. So this is another concept that I want to sort of just share with you, something that we've started to do, which is actually, as you rightly identified as an audience, licensing is where the commercial revenues, and I was having an interesting conversation over lunch actually, where a lot of universities make a lot of their money licensing from t-shirts, and actually Harvard, Oxford, whatever it is, when they talk about licensing, it's actually that name on a tourist walking around taking pictures. And I think that's brilliant. You know, Man United is not rich for no reason. And again, it's just thinking about the world in a slightly different way, about how to drive revenues back to the business, the university straight business. So it's focused on the core skills. Again, reference to the previous speaker, excellence. Doesn't matter where it is, how big it is, it's just excellent. Try and monetize it. and venturers can help. And this is something which I think is a entirely new model, where the venturers we talked about that are more classically spin-out orientated, if they've got a sector, if they've got an expertise, all their mates work for Pfizer, and they've also maybe done a startup, why not give them a license to, so why don't bundle some IP and put it in an SP, a special purpose vehicle. They can fund it and they share some of the upside. This is a model that we've adopted. So basically, because why should a university be the expert at commercialising its own IP? If you set the regime that this guy has to earn twice as much as what you've already got on the table before he gets paid, why not do that? Why not set the regime and let enterprise and entrepreneurs come to you and go, okay, right, well, I'll take that on, and if in the next 24 months I get more than you, I keep half the difference, or a third the difference, whatever it is, whatever you negotiate. So for us, this is something which VCs don't really do, man plus dog doesn't do. It needs a bit of organisation, but it doesn't require much capital from anyone. It's just legwork and resourcefulness. By the way, I'd just like to ask at this point, does anyone do this at the moment? Okay, good. But it is the minority, and I think if this were fast forwarded 5 years, I would seriously hope that this room would be the other way around. This is just a case study about ourselves. We've got some university projects, but given the people in the room, it's a bit sensitive to talk about some of them. And also, this was one which has an academic provenance, although somewhat loose actually. But it's in the IT sphere. It's encryption technology, and it is disruptive. It allows you to actually recall your emails. If you send and I send a lot by accident to the wrong people, you can actually press recall and it actually disappears when they go online. The other things, it's very secure. You can't forward or send or do anything else with an email that's been certiboxed to you. So very good if you're a bit loose on the. We've had a couple of glasses of wine when you email. Anyway, regardless of that, when we first looked at it as an investment, we thought, well, it sounds brilliant. You know, I heard the same thing I've just said. It's like, well, right, okay, snake oil. You know, we've all heard brilliant stories before. And what we actually wanted to do was to get a venturer, we didn't call them that at the time, but get a non-exec director, whatever, consultant to actually put his money where his mouth was and invest alongside us. Someone who knew the sector. And we were saying, okay, we like it, but we can't be bothered to do due diligence. Even, well, we're never going to be able to do the due diligence required technically on this IP. So again, this is bridging the gap between entrepreneurs and IP. You're sort of getting a guy who sort of knows enough about both to actually put his money where his mouth is, not as a paid consultant. Of course, this wasn't necessarily with the university, but we've applied this model to universities now. So, very inexperienced CEO, quite academic as it happens as well, so quite good analogies. And we found two cracking venturers who put their money where their mouth was. We followed, and we put in a few $100K. The deal got funded. They mentored, very important word. If someone is mentorable, that's also a very important phrase. If the academic is mentorable, then get them a good mentor and see what, and make sure, well, there's lots of other ifs and buts and make sures, but we can talk about that maybe another time. But if you can try and get the team to gel and everyone understand each point of view, because we all know that academics have different, they get out of bed in the morning and think differently to entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur thinks how much money he's going to make, the academic thinks how many papers he's going to write, how much fame and glory he's going to get in a different way, and it's never the twain. And if the entrepreneurs are used to that environment and vice versa, we've all seen that happen. But this worked very well, and everything like this happened, and it just happened kind of, just everything went right. I mean, we learned from our bitter mistakes, but we're also smart enough to learn when things go right that it is luck, and we want to replicate that luck. So we got we got funding, and then we actually got followed through with venture capital, which we brought in. So we put our seed funding in, and then we brought the VCs in, and that's for two reasons. The first thing is it protects our own investment. We're helping, but also we're helping the business. We know the VC community. I'm sure you guys know the VC community pretty well. But between everybody, we brought in VCs, and okay, it's a small business. Business isn't home and driving. This hasn't exited yet, so can't see the wood. Excuse me. But it looks good, and it's showing you what success might look like. That's a referenceable thing there. Oops. So this is just a bit about us, what I mean. So what I would say is recommendations from my point of view. I'm sure you've got a few of your own. is fostering networks of human and financial capital, and if possible, embody them in the same people. So people are putting their money where their mouth is, because they really are the best qualifiers for you. You've got consultants that you pay, they'll tell you whatever they need to get the next paycheck. If you've got people who are actually putting their money on their, wherever their, so get that the right way around, money where their mouth is. And challenge the KPIs. You know, if you're being judged on KPIs which actually aren't going to follow an economic benefit or the benefits that you're trying to bring. You know, it is amazing that you change the bonus structures, the models, the KPIs, and funnily enough, human beings, bright human beings, act in their own self-interest within and without the university setup. And we see a lot where things aren't right. I think they should be challenged. And don't be afraid to do nothing for the right reasons. So that would be my recommendations. Thank you very much.